understanding.
Over your shoulder.
Do we need any more time?
That journey, do you need to do a KWL before?
That's kind of
That
what
would be forward, that's why I didn't know here.
We'll share out. So I'm gonna reach into my bucket or my little bag of numbers, and that's going to pull out a table number, and that table number is going to share out what their definitions were. So here we go. Table 4.
And even if it's just,
First table. All right.
even if it's just you
Well,
hearing
it's
them
kind
say
of
it.
like, it's kind of like, everyone up here, can you solve the world? No, they cannot.
And you know, they, if you,
They say it's a unit test
they can
and
multiply and divide.
what they know.
And then,
Okay.
well, they can multiply.
And the
divide,
definition
but they don't know
for
what to
learning is
multiply
what we're
by.
currently
That's
learning.
what
That would be like a check
Not to
question.
multiply and divide,
After you
we need to
teach,
work on
you give 2 or 3 check questions
how
to
do
see
you
if they
identify this
understand.
company operation.
All right, checking for understanding and giving out check questions. All right, very good. Table 6.
And the definition of assessment for learning is figuring out where they are cognitively and where they are academically.
Table 2.
We said the definition for learning is what do they know, like as a pre-test.
Okay, pre-test and what they know.
And you don't grade them.
No grades, okay?
Definition of assessment of learning is what do you know after you've been taught, like a post-test, and you do grade them.
All right. And one more.
Or you may teach them.
Did I call table 2 already?
That was us.
Okay, done, just did. Table 8.
Too late, go, Mr. Jones.
Oh, well, we just barely got started. We were saying the definition of learning is summative.
Okay, summative.
And the definition, for learning is formative.
All right.
I-STEP is of learning. And those scrimmages would be for learning.
Mr. Jennings was listening to this correctly.
No, it wasn't in there.
Those are all very good, all absolutely correct. It's really hard to see on your slides, but I did put in what are some of the key differences between assessment for learning and assessment of learning. Who uses assessment for learning? Really, teachers benefit, the students benefit, and parents use the information you get from assessment for learning to see where your students need to go. It happens during the learning. If somebody has that on their sheet, say assessment for learning happens during learning, that's absolutely true. It's used to give you information on what and how to improve your instruction, where to review what your students are understanding and not understanding, identify and respond to student needs. It's to improve learning, and it's a motivator. I think that's something key that we kind of forget, that a formative assessment or assessment for learning is really to motivate the students, showing them these are things I have excelled on already, these are things I can improve on, and give them that motivation to make those corrections and changes and improve. It's continuous and ongoing, and it is another word for formative assessments. Assessment of learning, yes, teachers use it, students and parents also benefit from that information, but that's the information that goes to your principals, it goes to superintendents, policymakers, district people, because those are your summative assessments. Those are I-STEP, acuity. It occurs after learning. It's used to certify student competence. We use it to rank how our students did on a particular assessment, on a particular day, on a particular given time. Rank and sort students. Document how our standards have either been achieved or not achieved. They said, when I was doing my research, and in the textbook I used for my class, that it can be a motivator through a more negative connotation towards, a threat or a punishment. So if you don't do well on this test, you will be retained, you will be held back. That's one of maybe a negative side of a summative assessment or a promise of a reward. We do it here. Get your SRI scores in the green and you get an award and a party or whatever. So that is all something that you see in assessment of learning. It's periodic and it's summative. So, summative assessments. We talked about that. It's generally taken the end of a semester, end of a unit, end of the year. They're the more traditional ways of evaluating students. Even a unit test is graded, so therefore it can be considered a summative assessment. And they must be reliable, valid, and free of bias. So that's what you'll see on ISTEPs. That's why they lock them down, to eliminate those types of validity issues. So, now is the spot where I've given you a lot of these examples. To see if you can think of any more. On your bottom side, list any examples of summative assessments that you have either given, you're familiar with, you did at a different school, a different state, something we do at School 15, something we do at, somebody else in a different district. There's lots of different summative assessments that occur that we don't even do in our own building. Progress monitoring would be an example. Do you use those more frequently? Terra Nova, there's some schools love
That was the 1 year they switched.
Oh, okay.
If we're doing diagnostic, then it would be.
Freaking test.
Yeah, it has different levels.
What's the one in high school? That's so
Okay, about 30 seconds, and then I'll call out tables.
Then it's formal. Okay. You're using it for.
All right, table 9, back in the back. Could you report out? Whatever you've got so far. What are some examples of summative assessments?
Well, we have scrimmages,
Oh, dreaded scrimmages.
dreaded scrimmages. We put nibbles because they're not anymore SRI, and I put used to do a writing prompt test. Just boom, here's the writing prompt. We did it this week, but we did do it like a pop quiz.
Okay. Table 4.
I'm going to say mine, authentic assessments such as playing or performing.
Terra Nova is one that some states do and that we've done in the past here. Any others? Unit tests. All right. Table 6.
Yeah, we had some of the same ones. Mr. Marcus does a PACER test with his kids. He just did it today, as a matter of fact. Just to test their level where they are physically on some skills. In the preschool, we use an I-STAR test. We test them twice a year on that.
All right. And table 5.
Right here.
All right.
We did the basic ISTEP, iRead, SATs, the SCAT in Florida, Acuity, spelling tests.
Very good. Yep. Any of those state criteria and reference tests would be summative. NWEA is a test that some districts in Indiana, they use, in addition to doing I-STEP. So those are all very good examples of summative assessments. So now we're going to move on to what we're really focused on, which is formative assessment. So assessment for learning is formative assessment. It is the identification by teachers and learners of learning goals, what the intentions are of the activities that you are doing, what are the intended outcomes that you want to see, and what are the criteria that you are giving to your students to achieve those targets. Assessment for learning and formative assessments are those rich conversations between your teachers and students. So it's your data talks, it's your quick little meetings about, a piece of writing that they're working on for their portfolio, that continually build and go deeper. It is giving students timely feedback so that they know what they need in order to move forward in their learning. And it's involving the students actively in assessing themselves, using peer assessments, using goal-setting activities so that they have an avenue to take in order to achieve their targets. And it's teachers responding to identified learning needs and their student strengths and weaknesses, and then modifying your instruction to meet those needs. I would like for you now to brainstorm some formative assessments that you are either familiar with, use currently in your classroom, have used them before, or heard of. And I want you to really use this time and this is one of the main reasons I sat you with different people from different grade levels, etc., is so you get an idea of things that other people are doing in their classroom. What are the formative assessments that the upper grades are doing that maybe you can modify to use in your first grade classroom? And what can I do in the sixth grade classroom that I can notch up a little bit that the second graders are doing? Okay, so use this time to kind of be collaborative and learning from one another. Share.
The test. This has to be done.
Okay, we'll share out. Table 7. Okay, what are your examples of formative assessments?
We were just talking about like a signal or like thumbs up, thumbs down.
Absolutely.
We said, well, we have quite a few, but the one we were just talking about was like a quick thumb up, thumb down check, or like, Susan was talking about using signals in her own, other ways, and more depth of that, but progress monitoring, weekly tests, scrimmages, we thought were formative because they happen every 2 weeks.
Table 5.
We agreed with that too, but we had like journal feedback, and most of us post our data,
Okay.
so we have that too.
Awesome. Table 6.
So, Mr. Marcus was talking about he kind of really does his own, he kind of created his own way of guiding his classroom and